Hello everyone, my name is Jurassic Insider, and welcome back to a little bit of a different episode for Jurassic World the game. I always say that, but today it's actually something a little bit different. This is more of like a showcase video compared to a normal Let's Play video, where we're going to be looking at every single rare creature in Jurassic World the game. Every single land rare creature, which is the only type of rare creatures out there as of 2024, and for a little while now, they've been the only rare creatures since all the old Cenozoic rares have been turned into super rares and legendaries. But basically, that's besides the point. What we're looking at today is every single rare in a showcase style. It's going to be a little bit different. It's not really going to be opinionated since I'm planning to do a ranking video of every rare creature very soon in the next couple of episodes. So this is more of just an educational video for anybody. If they ever want, or if you ever come across this video in the future or anything, and you just want to see every rare creature all together maxed, here's where you can see them. You can see everything right now, right here. It's just a little bit something different. It's just me showing you all these creatures with a little bit of commentary. I know some other videos out there exist, but I haven't seen anything quite like this showing every creature of every rarity. I actually did this for the common creatures way back in the day, almost a year ago now. So this is kind of similar to that. But anyways, I don't want to waste too much of your time since that's the point of the video. But yeah, let's get started. By the way, we're going to be going in DNA cost order, and then I'm going to be giving a little bit about each creature. But first one here is the Allosaurus. And the Allosaurus is not unlockable through either battle stages or earth-shattering events, or ground-shattering events, whatever you call them. But this is a very cool creature. It is pretty difficult to get, unfortunately. A big trend that you can see with a lot of these rare creatures that aren't unlockable through various methods and that you have to wait to get them in packs. They're unfortunately kind of difficult to get unless you have the Amber Market unlocked, which doesn't happen until later into the game. So, and once you have playable bosses, so it actually is pretty difficult to get a lot of these creatures. And there's people who are pretty high level, like level 50 and 60, who don't have every single rare creature, even at level 1. So, thankfully, I play this game a lot. I do a lot of events, so I have been able to get every single one, and I'm pretty high level now, but I've had every rare creature max for quite a while, but this is just one of them, as you can see. It's not one of the strongest, but it's definitely not the weakest. Definitely has one of the coolest designs. You can see that a lot of these creatures, for some reason, a lot of the rare creatures in particular do use a bunch of red and like very warm colors as opposed to the cool like blue, purples, that sort of thing. So that gives it a nice flair. And something that you will see with these designs as opposed to the common designs is they love spikes. This is really where you can see how much the designers over at Ludia, whenever they were developing this game, loved the heck out of spikes, because you'll see that a lot here. And Allosaurus unfortunately has some of the most atrocious spike placements. God, that must hurt over there on the legs. But yeah, you can take a look at each of these different evolutions. Definitely a cool creature, but now we'll move on just to keep everything rolling. Next up, we have the Giganotosaurus, who's one of the more interesting ones, since even though it is quite forgettable in the grand scheme of things, just like Allosaurus, it can't be unlocked. But if you look at the icon image of how this guy looks on the profile, you can see he has very dark colors on his, or very like warm and like very bright colors as opposed to dark colors, which is what his actual model has. So it's a bit of like a false statement about how he actually looks. But otherwise, it is a fine enough design. It's got like a little bit of a tropical look to it. This guy actually has one of the highest health ratios for any rare, especially for a carnivore. It's quite high, with almost 500 health as opposed to only about 120 attack, which is not that much. But again, it's not one of the strongest, but it's sort of on the lower end of things. But still a decent creature. It's just not going to be too useful to most people since, again, you can't unlock it, which ends up making it a lot less desirable. Its hybrid is Giganotosaurus, just to let you know. We'll take a quick look at each of its evos. It's very much well known for how it is not very accurate to what a Gigi would have looked like in real life. But regardless, there it is. Next on the roster, we're continuing with the carnivores. As you can tell, there are an absolute ton of rare carnivores. There's, I believe, 9 of them, which is crazy to think about how they just kept adding more and more instead of adding them to some of the other categories. I mean, there's only 3 commons and 3 super rares, so yeah, 9 for rares. Very weird distribution. Here we have Irritator, which is one of my less personal favorite designs, but it still looks pretty good. It mixes the warm and the cool colors, which is something we don't really see often. And the stats are right about average for the rares. It's right about in the middle, 400 health, 150 attack, very standard. But not much to say with this one. My favorite thing about it is, in fact, it's one of its evolution fact is where its name come from, which is Irritator, of course, meaning that it was irritating to put the fossil together, which I think is a fun factoid. I said that really weirdly, but yeah, you can see it right there. You can take your time to read it if you want, but otherwise, we will move on. Next creature here is the Nasutoceratops, which is a giant ceratopsian with a absolutely massive skull. So that's pretty awesome. Nothing much to say about this guy either, but it's got a lot of like very, very prominently darkened, very shiny red on its skin. But again, it's a fairly standard one. It of course has a lot more health because it is a herbivore. But not much to it, I would say. It does make a hybrid, which is Pachycephalosaurus, which is a rare hybrid, so it has a fairly accessible hybrid. But otherwise, again, it's not unlockable, so it's not the easiest creature to get out there. Dsungaripterus is one of the weaker and, I believe, one of the cheaper rares out there, but it is kind of a little bit more leaning towards the attack side, so if you want a creature with some decent attack, this one doesn't do half bad of a job. It very much looks like a seagull. I've mentioned that many, many times in the past. But otherwise, yeah, nothing too crazy here, so we'll move on. Here's another pretty well-known dinosaur in the grand scheme of things, which is the Gallimimus, which has 396 health and 151 attack, which is kind of interesting because those are the stats of another creature that we'll see in a few moments, which is pretty cool. But yeah, this one is one of those creatures that goes from a pretty normal, standard design at its original Evo that looks exactly like the creature's resembling, to going absolutely bonkers at its max design, really going with the feather thing, which is another staple of a lot of these higher leveled creature designs. Pachycephalosaurus also continues that trend of well-known herbivores. So Pachycephalosaurus has showed up in the movies and is also just a well-known dinosaur in general. One of the most famous Pachycephalosaurus out there. And you can see this guy has one of the most gross designs ever. It looks perfectly fine on the surface, but if you take a look at the head, behind the head, ugh, yeah, the spikes, again with the spikes, they really love their spikes, and some of those placements are just irritating. But this one looks fine, nothing much to it, but it is just a pretty standard rare. It does make the Pachyceratops, as we saw with Nasutoceratops earlier, and it is unlockable to the battle stage, which does make that hybrid a little bit more accessible, which is pretty nice to see. Koolasuchus is a pretty known rare creature, particularly if you're a fan of the Gaming Beaver. He has had a prominent role in his channel, and while his stats are just about average, design continues that trend of the red and yellow that we saw a lot, and yeah, it's overall very cool. In fact, this is the first time I'm collecting all these Evos, so that's pretty cool. It really does go from the banana pudding looking to the whatever this is. I don't even know. But yeah, Koolasuchus is awesome. We love Koolasuchus, but overall, he's not like one of the most interesting creatures. He does have one of the strongest hybrids out of all of these, which is, of course, Koolasuchus, Koolasaurus, I should say. I don't know where the source came from, but yeah, it's very interesting that this guy, of all of them, makes one of the strongest hybrids. Corythosaurus also has terrible spike placement. I'm sorry, but what were they thinking again? Can you stop it with the spike? This one has a sail and a spike, so they went all out on this one. But Corythosaurus is another one that, for me personally at least, was really difficult to get throughout the game. Maybe not on this account, but some previous playthroughs, because it is just very difficult to find for whatever reason, and that still continues to be the case. But even though it's not the most interesting out there, it is a fun enough design and is yet another creature. And the interesting thing about this one is that, yeah, it doesn't have a hybrid at all, which is really weird. There's only a couple creatures that aren't tournament creatures that don't have hybrids. And this is one of them. I believe the only other two are Irritator and Dsungaripterus. So otherwise, everything else has a hybrid. So it's weird that those handful of creatures don't. I guess Dsungaripterus and Irritator makes sense since they were added later in the game. But Corythosaurus is a really interesting one there. But yeah, not much else to say. Next up is Pyroraptor, which is one of the newer creatures to appear in any of the movies. It appeared in Dominion recently, but never got a Gen 2 design, so this is all we have, even though it looks nothing like it does in the movie. But it's all a fine dinosaur. It means a fire raptor? I don't know what raptor means, but it's fire something, so yeah, that's pretty awesome. Nothing much to it, but it does make one of the coolest hybrids in the game, which is the Carnotaurus, which pretty much everybody needs at some point, so if you don't have one yet, that means you should get one. Anyways, it's pretty cool, yeah, all around. It's fine, nothing much to it. It is decently strong, but yeah, other than the hybrid, it's not too exceptional. But yeah, there you go. In case you need it, again, the point of the video is to show you all these creatures, just in case you need it. Even though it seems like a weird addition to my episode count right now. This is one of the most underrated creatures in my opinion, which is Tapejara, which is pretty ragged on because it's a worst rare creature, which I think is a bit strange since I think Dsungaripterus is actually worse, but this one technically has the lowest ferocity, but yeah, I think it looks kind of cool. It's got a very mean looking face, but it's got some really nice colors, and you'll see once I do my ranking video that I'm actually going to give this one a lot of sympathy. I guess that's a bit of a spoiler, but yeah, there you go if you care at all. And one of the big reasons why I think it's really good is because of this, Tapejara, which is a bargain hybrid. Up there with Carnotaurus, is one of the most useful hybrids out there. So it's actually really useful, even though the base creature isn't the strongest out there. It's still not bad at all. So yeah, that's all for this one, basically. Dilophosaurus is the twin to the Gallimimus in terms of its stats. It has the exact same stats, basically. But quite a bit different of a color scheme here with the orange and the yellow, which I think looks really nice. And overall, it's a very unique looking creature, and it's one of the most well-known dinosaurs, one of the 3 big carnivorous baddies from the original Jurassic Park, which is very nice to see. Quite expensive. I believe it's like 690 DNA for one of the weaker stats, which is a bit unfortunate, but yeah. Really, when they were developing the game, they didn't really put that much effort into which rares need to be like the cheaper, which I think is interesting enough because it allows people to decide and theorize and discuss about which ones are the best, which is the fun of the community in the game, in my opinion. But yeah, sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent. Oh yeah, one other thing I want to mention about this guy is it actually makes the strongest rare hybrid. I don't know if I said that about Koolasuchus, but yeah, this is stronger. Irritator is a tournament hybrid, and this was pretty, like, crazy at the time. And we really don't get this nowadays. Nowadays, any tournament hybrid is 2 tournament creatures. But yeah, Irritator is stronger yet cheaper than a lot of tournament creatures that are 2 tournament hybrids together, at least a tournament creature and a legendary or something. So considering that this is made with a rare and it's not that expensive, it's actually made it a really good hybrid that's sort of been lost to time because it's the Hell Tank and it's, you know, very old, and it's still not like amazing or anything. It's just very, very good for the price. But yeah, that's about it. I'm sorry I didn't mention that. Nundasuchus is another relatively underused creature in my opinion, but I do like the design a lot. It's got like this turtle shell on its max design. I believe they have that at the beginning too. It looks like I didn't even collect the rewards here as well. So yeah, I'm gonna get a lot more buck in this video than I thought I was going to. I thought this was just gonna be a normal video. But yeah, it has the second most health out of any of the rare creatures, and the creature it's surpassed by is like a total anomaly that we'll check out in a few minutes. But yeah, it's still quite good in my opinion, and yeah, there you go. Not much to say about it. It's basically, I think it's the cheapest crocodilian out of the game, and it might have been the first time that the crocodilian animation had been used for a creature, which is pretty cool. Next up, we got Tyrannotitan, which I think was the first rare creature I ever maxed out, but there you go. It is a pretty cool creature, but in the grand scheme of things, it is definitely one of the most forgotten creatures out there, other than its hybrid, Tyrannotitan, which is decently used and well known. But otherwise, it really has been sort of lost to history because it's just another rare theropod, which you've seen 3 or 4 of those in this video, which is pretty crazy, honestly. And the stats are just about normal. It's just about where they are. Like a little bit better than Irritator, a little bit worse than Carnotaurus, sort of in that range. So really, again, just like most people, I don't have much to say about it. Except that maybe, I think it's the one rare creature that I didn't even know existed before I played this game. So, hey, there's something. I think this is the last big theropod creature from the rares, but this is the Carnotaurus right here, which is actually a bit more of an attack creature and one of the strongest rares out there. But this one is pretty well known. Likely, if you play the game or you just know dinosaurs, you know the Carnotaurus is one of the most famous dinosaurs in in terms of the actual dinosaur people and dinosaur communities, because it's just so gosh darn cool. It's sort of in that range where it's like most random people don't know what it is, but most people who know dinosaurs absolutely love it and know exactly what it is, which is pretty cool. I'm of the opinion that I really like Carnotaurus as well. It's got the stubby arms, those devil horns, which were kind of on the original design, as you can see here, but it is one of the coolest designs for sure. It does look really nice, and I think some people have emphasized that it's not that accurate, which I don't exactly know. I'm not sure exactly what the Carnotaurus would have looked like. I haven't looked at a bunch of other references, but otherwise, oops, I don't even know what I just did, but I completed a mission, so that's pretty cool. But otherwise, I'm just going to move on again. It makes a Carnoraptor, which is pretty cool. The second last creature here is the Diplodocus, which is the last herbivore, I think. This one is a long-necked herbivorous sauropod, as most of us know it. And it is a very cool looking design. Again, it's another one of those creatures to mix the warm and cool colors. And as I'd expect, because it's a sauropod, it is a ginormous health tank, which is really cool to see, and what you'd expect, basically. This is really cool. But yeah, another one that's, I think, is pretty forgotten, honestly, surprisingly enough. But it's pretty good. Next up is Rhamphorhynchus, which is the final pterosaur creature. This is another one of the really strong ones. I was added later on, but this one can be gotten from an event, and it is pretty cool. It's got a very tribal looking design, but overall, yeah, once again, it's really strong and quite good, honestly. Ophiacodon is next, and this one is really well known for its insane attack ratio. This was one of the first creatures that really would be considered a glass cannon. Like, it had loads of attack compared to very low amounts of health. But yeah, 277 attack for this guy was insane at the time, especially for a rare, because a lot of like max super rares had very similar attack. Of course, the health was nowhere near as good as those, but it was still really good, and it still stands out today. And it's very interesting. I believe it was also around the time one of the first creatures to use the Dimetrodon looking animation. And now we have a lot more of this creature, but at the time it was pretty cool to see it being reused for another creature. But finally we made it to the end. There were a bunch of rare creatures to cover today, but this is the one that tops them all. It's the most expensive, but also the strongest. It is, I mean, the most expensive, really. Like, truly, there's a big gap between whatever the cheapest is, which I think is the Allosaurus, which is like in the 200s in terms of DNA cost, and this guy is 700 something, so he is really expensive. I wish I could give you an actual amount, but I don't know these off the top of my head. I wish I do, but I just don't. This guy is definitely really cool. He uses the Dilophosaurus animation, and again, one of those rare creatures that only uses cool colors in its design. But yeah, it is by far the strongest, nearly 700 health and 200 attack. For a rare creature is insane. This is actually on par with some of the level 10 tournament creatures. Like, in fact, if I remember correctly, it's better than Dsungaripterus, which is a level 10 tournament creature. So it is insanely strong, and weirdly so. I'm not sure why they decided to make this guy absolutely massive. I mean, like, there are other creatures that like top their category that are really strong. Velociraptor Gen 2. Irritator, for example, like, that are the best of their rarity, but this guy is probably the greatest anomaly because he is super good. Even Ophiacodon, which has more attack than it, granted, this completely like surpasses in health, and the attack is not even that bad comparatively. It's just a little bit less, but compared to every other super rare creature, it's leagues better. So this one's by far the best one, and really cool. But will it be the best one to top the ranking though? Considering everything, we'll have to see. We will have to see, friends. Alright folks, that's it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy. Hopefully this was informative to you, even if you find this video like kind of random and not that useful right now. Again, I wanted to go in and do it before I got out my ranking video because I did it for the comments. Why not do it for the rares? But we'll see. If you guys like this video enough, we'll do it for the super rares as well. But until then, I will see you all next time. This is Jurassic Insider, signing out.